10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
This is Diane Andrews in Black and White. The issues you don't want to talk about. The arts and entertainment you need to know. And now here's your host, Diane Andrews.
Thank you very much, audience, for being here to Diane Andrews in Black and White. We welcome you, and I'm your host, Diane Andrews. I did a little survey of the audience before we started this show, and I asked them to write down what was the deadliest animal in the world. And I'm going to just tell you some of the responses I got. Scorpion. I got, somebody said Chuck Norris was the deadliest animal in the world. Somebody said alligator. One guy asked me, do you mean mosquito? He saw the name of the show, probably. But mosquito is the deadliest animal in the world. Who would think something that little? But I can tell you from being a little lady, big things happen in small packages, right? So the mosquito is the deadliest animal in the world. There are a lot of mosquitoes out here that cause things like yellow fever, the Zika virus we're going to talk about today, Denong. I mean, malaria, still one of the most deadliest diseases in the world because it's so prevalent in underprivileged countries. We're going to also give you an Ebola update. Dr. Rittard to my right, and a nurse from Southern University Nursing School, Shelley Upgrade, about 10 months, no, probably about 14 months ago, did Ebola. And we told you, which we're going to tell you in this YouTube you're going to see, in this little video of it, don't panic on Ebola. If anybody else died, go get your flu shot, which I did the next week, go get my flu shot, because 35,000 people die a year of the flu and pneumonia. No one else died. We were right, Dr. Rittard. This is Dr. Rittard. He's the head of our epidemiology in the state of Louisiana at the Department of Health and Hospitals, which means he's our #1 infectious disease doctor in the state. Dr. Rittard comes to us from Fiji Islands, where he was born, but he went to University of Paris, and he also went to Tulane and some work at LSU, and he's specialized in an MPH, but he specialized in tropical medicine, I think, specifically over 40, 50 years in tropical medicine, which is what Zika's about, Ebola's about. People wonder where Zika got its name. Zika in 1947 was first discovered or seen or heard of and named after the Zika forest in Uganda, Africa, in 1947. Then it was dormant for many years and then reemerged in South Pacific. Now it is called a pandemic, which means it's spreading around the world, or so many multiple countries are seeing evidence or cases of this virus. So let's take a moment. We're going to look at Ebola, and then I'm going to introduce you to our next guest. And we'll look at Ebola right now, and then I'll introduce you to May Calvin Belton.
Again, I can't say enough. Don't panic over Ebola, and let's stop all the Facebooks and the websites and the emails on it being airborne. It is not airborne.
Get your flu injection.
That's right.
Wash your hands.
That's right. Wash your hands. Use universal precautions, you call them in healthcare. Well, let's talk about the corpses a little bit, Dr. Rittard. Now, the corpses, after a person passes on from Ebola, many did in those 3 countries where it became so virulent, the corpse is a problem because, of course, when you talk about these countries, they're underdeveloped, underprivileged, impoverished countries. They don't have the same kinds of mechanisms we have to get people out of the hospital. That's why right now we have 4,000 troops in Africa building clinics. We have sent 4,000 troops over there to build clinics and to help with the Ebola virus. And I know many of them are staged in Senegal, 3,000 of them, because as I said, I interviewed a guy from Senegal in Dakar, which is a beautiful city, which looks like Paris. Senegal was a French colony for many years. Everybody there speaks French. And Dakar
As you see in Ebola, what we said, and we were correct, Dr. Rittard and myself, and the nurse from Southern University. I have a nurse to my left, May Calvin Belton. She's an RN, a registered nurse. She's from Polk City, Florida, which is near Jacksonville or somewhere. I know you went to college in Jacksonville, Florida. It's in Central Florida,
Polk
right?
City is halfway between Orlando and Tampa.
Okay, like we know where that
Right
is.
in the-
Okay, in the
right
middle
in
of
the
in the middle
center.
of the state, a little bit
Right
of
in the
town, right?
center, yes.
But you went to college in Jacksonville, in the nursing school that was connected to,
With Edward Waters College.
and it was Brewster Duval
Duval School of
Nursing
Nursing.
School of the college. She retired from DHH. You were there. How many years, May, were you at DHH?
Ooh, probably about 35 years, including the 15 years I spent with mental health, the Division of Mental Health. And
Right.
then the latter part of my career was with DHH Health Standards Division.
Right, that's
And
when
that
I
was
first
the-
met you, yeah.
Yeah, and that was the agency that licensed and certified and regulated all healthcare facilities in the state.
And you retired as the medical certification
Specialist.
program manager.
That's
Is that
correct.
what you
got that
retired at?
right.
Now, the only problem I see with May is she's a Delta Sigma Theta. I'm an Alpha Kappa Alpha. So a lot of y'all people know what those sororities mean out there.
Wow.
But 2 weeks ago, I was at a Woman of Distinction luncheon. And May was one of the four women nominated with the ex-governor, Blanco, for Women of Distinction. She works in the Girl Scouts. She worked in Jack and Jill before, when her children were younger, before you retired from that. She works in Senacor, which I'm a foundation member of also. She works with the homeless. She does volunteering all over the world, which is what she's talking about here with the United Methodist Foundation. So May, you've been to Tonga, you've been to India, you've been to Brazil, you've been to Africa, you've been to Fiji Islands. Where else have you been working in
Been
tropical
to,
medicine?
My first medical mission was in India. That was in year 2000. Then I've been to Cambodia 3 times, Mexico 3 times, Senegal, West Africa, Kenya twice.
All over Africa, a
Thailand.
lot of countries all over. Thailand, you went to Bangkok? Thailand,
Yes,
outside Bangkok?
Singapore,
And the
Malaysia.
Yeah, the reason she's here, she's going to talk to us about preparing and getting ready to go to a tropical place, which malaria is still the one of the number one killers in the world, even though we don't have as big a problem here. We're going to show you the Aedes mosquito. It's on your screen. Aedes aegypti is the mosquito that causes the Zika virus. Zika virus is going to be worldwide. It's already called a pandemic. We expect over 2 million people to have the Zika virus this year, and more virulent than any place is Brazil.
Yes.
Now, we talked about Ebola, and we were right on Ebola. It was a simple disease. You could kill it with chlorine and water and things like that. When we did Ebola about less than a year and a half ago when I first started, Dr. Rittard. Now, Zika is a pandemic, but it's never killed but one person around the world, and they probably had other complications.
Yes.
Okay, so babies get, with pregnant women, it's 20% who get Zika, I understand, who are bitten by the Aedes aegypti, get the disease of Zika. So tell us exactly what you see is happening this summer with so many mosquitoes out here. In America, we've had 492 cases, 2 in Louisiana, but no one, everybody came from Brazil or South America that experiences Zika virus here in America.
Yeah, so far most of the cases, all the cases that are diagnosed in the US got the infection in the Caribbean or in Latin America. And that was a time where it was very cold here, and we are getting worried because it's getting warmer and warmer, and the mosquitoes are multiplying.
Now, I even
So-
saw something that said, if you have like a little bottle top from a Coke bottle or any drink bottle, and it's outside with a little water in it, they even breed in that to get rid of anything that contains water.
Absolutely.
And that's probably one of the big problems in some of the countries you've been to, May. How do they get rid of all these open containers when they have sewage running through some of the streets?
Well, in Cambodia, where you don't have running water, in some of the remote areas, they collect rainwater that they use for cooking, for washing, for bathing. And the problem is an education thing, really, you know. And how do you stop these people from collecting rainwater when that's the source?
But they have to. I mean,
that's
when you say it's an education, I understand what you mean, but they have no choice.
Yeah, they have no choice. So what do? Yeah, and then of course I was in Brazil last year for a medical mission, and this was just before all of the
Zika.
Yes, right. And
Epidemic, because that's
Yes.
number one.
yes, I
in
was
the
just
world.
there in April of last year.
You know,
But-
the Olympics are going to be there in August of this year, and they're afraid they may cancel some of the games because some people,
right.
some of the athletes don't want to go to Brazil
That's right.
because of they're afraid of the Zika virus.
Yes, it's when I was a child until I was 13 years old in Vanuatu, we were always drinking rainwater.
Right.
In the
Because the
Fiji
water-
Islands, over in the
In
Fiji?
the islands,
Yeah.
not Fiji, Vanuatu.
Then,
It's not far from Fiji.
Right.
okay, South Pacific Islands.
The water from the wells, the sea
Yes,
not
yeah.
being far, is
Yeah.
too salty. So we collect the rainwater. And the idea was to put a mosquito net between the,
Oh,
That's it.
when the water goes into the tank, put a mosquito net. But in the villages,
yeah.
they use the 44-gallon drums with that had oil that they are washed, but they didn't put a cover and a
That's
mosquito
right.
net for the water to go inside.
Because the Zika, what I read was discovered in 1947, like I had mentioned, in Zika forest in Uganda, Africa. The next big epidemic was over in the South Pacific, I understand, many years ago.
Way
After the discovery, 10 years after that. But there hasn't been another discovery in this magnitude of so many Zika, the Aedes mosquito causing this, because I think the Aedes causes another. It causes Dengue, yellow fever, something else too.
yes, it's and the Aedes that's the best at transmitting Zika prefers to live in lay their eggs in small containers.
Like that's maybe where where I was reading, any small container like a Coke
That's
bottle,
right.
don't let it sit outside because they will breathe
That's
in,
right.
in that bottle top with water's in it.
Anything that collects water.
Anything that
yeah.
collects from the big thing, but you say they prefer the little ones. They say different mosquitoes come out at different times of the day and night too that you have to be worried about.
Yes, the West Nile virus transmitted by a mosquito that mostly bite in the late evening.
Late evening.
Zika, the Aedes
During the
are almost all day.
All day.
All day.
Yeah, little
Not
bit-
night though.
little bit more in the evening,
Little
but
bit more.
not so much at the very night.
So all day worry about the Zika. And what I'm understanding now, we know what it can cause. If you do get it, 1 out of 5 get it. Even if you're bitten by the Aedes mosquito, only 20% get it. And then out of that 20%, some may get, if you're a pregnant woman, you have the bad opportunity to get your baby to have microphilia, which is a smaller brain, right, Doctor?
Yes, and that's what makes Zika very scary for a lot of people. Usually it's not a very severe disease. You would have fever, you would have
A rash, right?
pain,
Joint
pain
pain.
in the joint mostly, a little bit in the muscle, a rash, conjunctivitis.
Yeah, red eyes.
Most people will be recover very quickly. Majority has nothing, but
Some
most
people you may not even know you had it,
No.
right?
Some-
You've had it, you
and
don't
some
even know.
people, flu-like symptoms.
Right.
That
But
you
I don't
take-
think you get the vomiting and,
No.
the nausea.
I haven't
like
heard
you did
of
with
the
Ebola.
vomiting.
You don't get all of that, right?
I know there is
Yeah,
not that.
right.
It's basically flu-like symptoms,
Right.
fever,
Tired,
muscle
fatigue,
aches,
yeah,
and,
muscle aches.
and most doctors will prescribe or, ibuprofen
Is there
or
a
something
test
like
for
that.
Zika? How do they know you have it? What is the test they give you to determine it,
It's
doctor?
probably a blood test, isn't it?
These days,
Yeah.
first you can, for a period of about 7 days, a little bit less, a little bit more, you will have the virus in the blood. And that makes it dangerous because mosquito can get the virus.
Yeah, because one mosquito can bite you with it and take it
And
to
take it to
another
somebody,
person that he
yeah.
bites. That's the way of mosquito from person to another person is one transmission of it. Sexual transmission, as
Yes,
been
it
said,
is.
also.
Yeah.
That probably is not very, very common.
Yeah, but they're printing that now that it's
It's a
sexually
very
transmitted.
short period that the virus will be in your blood,
What is that period, Dr. Rittard?
about 1 week.
1 week.
So if somebody was bitten and started getting sick in the Caribbean, for example,
Yeah.
maybe 2 or 3 days before they came back, they have only 3-4 days here to be infectious. After that, the antibodies take over, the virus goes away. So the person is not dangerous anymore.
So do you think, like people baby bearing age should be that worried about the Zika because you're not going to have a child and you may have some fever, a little rash, that you may get from a cold, almost joint pain anyway.
Yeah,
I mean,
if-
you can be worried. I'm not saying don't worry, but it's nothing that has killed but one person in the history of the Zika virus, which millions of people have had over the world.
Yeah,
Correct?
very few people will have continuous pain in the joint for a longer, but that's a longer time. It's a fairly benign disease if there was not the big problem with the
pregnant.
pregnancy and the malformations.
And I'm going to mispronounce it, Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is a paralyzation. You have the bad opportunity again to get that as an older person.
Yes,
They're
and-
printing that now as one of the
Yes,
diseases
yes,
that can be
yes.
gotten from
Yeah,
Zika.
Guillain-Barré is a disease that comes after a few, not many, but a few infectious disease. And there is in Louisiana maybe 100 cases every year, not due to Zika, to other infectious disease.
Not from a mosquito, though.
Not from a mosquito, from many other infectious disease. Guillain-Barré is something that attacks
Is that a permanent paralyzation or is it short term?
Is usually a fairly short term, but some people, you know, I know, for example, I knew a surgeon that got Guillain-Barré after an infection that he had. That was way, way back, and he could not operate anymore. So a few of the people with Guillain-Barré are going to have severe problems.
And also if they have some other underlying
Diseases already.
diseases
Now,
or
May, tell me,
condition.
when you've been to all these tropical places, and what have you done to get prepared? Most places, a lot, you have to get a visa, and you have so long to get the visa and take shots for malaria and other diseases.
We have to do all of that. And well, first of all, before we go to these countries, we have an orientation, you know, to the country, what diseases are prevalent. We have orientation as to the culture. So we, as Americans, will know how to act and how to respect the culture and religion and customs of these countries. There is a, what we call international medical doctor here in Baton Rouge, and he is up to date on all of the diseases and tropical illnesses in these countries. So I went to him. Also, you go to a CDC website, and it will tell you what diseases are prevalent in whatever country you're
Like
going
South
to.
America
Yes.
is now the Zika. They're expecting 1.5 to 2 million people in Brazil to be attracted to the Zika this year. And they said then it falls out down to 28,000. The next closest country is Colombia. I don't know, what makes it so virulent in one specific place? You would think, why Brazil? What do they understand?
Well,
what happened?
I think part of it is the tropical area. You know, tropical where it's warm and
but
mosquitoes.
it's just that one country, though, in all of South America. Colombia, the next one in South America, is 28,000 people.
Yeah.
It's the poor sanitation in
Poor
areas where
sanitation.
sanitation.
Okay.
people have built houses out of any material,
Oh, okay.
garbage everywhere, lot of containers. I mean, we all have in our backyard. If we don't go look, even myself sometime, you know, I take,
That's it.
you should go every week, look at your backyard.
Yeah, I'm going
That's
to be
right.
looking for little bottles
That's
around
it.
that,
Little
with
bottle
water
taps.
collected. Right.
But you have some countries where garbage is everywhere. I spent 6 years in Cameroon.
Yeah.
They never picked up the garbage.
Never. What
No.
about the scent?
Oh, in some parts of Mexico, where I spent, you know,
Right.
went 3 times, you know, just garbage you know,
Everywhere on the
stacked up
street, just walk
everywhere.
right on through it.
And the same thing in Brazil. I was there last year, but I was on the in the Amazon area, and we visited these little rural villages. There are no roads or bridges on the Amazon in the area where we were, so we had to get a boat to take us to these little remote villages where people live along the Amazon. And you talking about backward, you know, water everywhere, garbage everywhere, and you
Just
know.
Americans just don't know how lucky and blessed we are to live in this country.
And many of those areas, the people living there have never seen a doctor
ever.
medical.
And really, I guess that
Yeah.
becomes part of their life. You know, living around garbage is what their
Yeah.
mother did and they did. Now, let's talk a little bit, though, with the Zika virus. We know how it can be transmitted now. And some precautions that I've read is put a net over your bed, get a fan, because they don't, a little fan, and put it next to your bed as you sleep, because the mosquitoes, you know, the wind moving too fast. And also eat garlic every night.
Oh.
Eat garlic, because your skin smells like garlic. And use like DEET or something like that to repel, some kind of
And you
repellent.
keep the vampires away.
And I keep the vampires away too if you use that. That's true.
Now, that was one of the things in all of the places I've been to. They always advise us
Probably keep
to
a man
carry-
away too now that you say that, right? The garlic.
to take insect repellent with us.
Right, always take insect repellent.
Right.
And now,
absolutely.
now, when every place you went, you had to take a shot for malaria. Most of those.
Malaria, we take Melaron. Melaron is a pill. Then I'm sure Dr. Retard is familiar with that. But you take it 2 days before you leave, and you take it the whole 2 weeks you're there, and then you take it for 3 or 4 days after you get back.
And that's for malaria.
yeah, that's
Now,
that's for
there is no
malaria.
vaccine. They're working on a vaccine for Zika now, I understand.
Yes, be much easier.
Yeah.
For malaria, they tried long time. It's making slow progress. Maybe one day I will get there.
Do you think, not this year, the virus, I mean the
For malaria, no.
vaccine, for Zika,
For Zika, oh, it's going to go fast.
this year?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we are in May. Yeah.
And there is no vaccine for malaria, and it's one of the #1 killers
Yes, because
in the world.
malaria is a parasite, and the parasites understand your immune system, and they know how to hide from your immune
So it's
system.
difficult to create a vaccine for malaria.
Yes, it's very difficult. Most parasites.
But it still comes from a mosquito. He leaves a parasite in you when he bites you? How does that work?
The mosquito, it's like, but like Zika. The mosquito will pick it up from somebody that has the malaria parasite in the blood. The problem is
brings
that
it to me.
it stays in the blood for, it can stay for months.
A friend of mine went to Africa, and they ended up with malaria, and they were really sick. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
nausea,
it's
vomiting,
serious. It's serious.
sweating. They went to bed for 3 weeks. Now, that kills you. Malaria
That
can
kills
kill
you,
you,
ki-
right?
And
Yeah.
probably kills you if you are new to malarious area, never had it before.
Right.
It kills you fairly fast.
But if they go back, their antibodies have been built up in their system, so they won't be as sick, probably, if they
Yes.
get bitten by a malaria mosquito when it carries malaria.
Now,
Yeah, I spent 6, and you have resistant malaria to the drugs.
Resistant, totally resistant.
Not all the different drugs. Malaron is one of the best ones.
right, right.
But there are places in toward Burma, Myanmar, and in Cambodia. There are places where malaria is fairly resistant to many drugs.
So-
In most of Africa, it's resistant to chloroquine, and Malaron
Right.
is the best choice.
Absolutely.
But if you're not careful, I spent 6 years in Cameroon, and one day with my 3 boys, my wife was wise. She stayed at home. We went on the beach.
She didn't go out with you all.
No, she knew better. As usual, the women know better.
That's right. Six
We went to
cents.
the beach, and my 3 boys and myself, we came back 10 days later with malaria.
Oh, wow.
All of you all, the 3 boys and
It's
yourself.
serious.
We were,
It's
we
serious.
took the chloroquine that was, for that small area, was not the best prevention. In those days, that was in the 80s, Malaron was not widely available.
No, but it's very effective now.
Yeah.
And you
And
have,
now it works
But at-
well.
yeah.
But in some of these resistant countries, it won't be as effective as it is in the non-resistant
Yeah,
countries.
you have to.
The mosquitoes have gotten so smart, they build up antibodies to the antibody, right, to the drug.
And if you want to know that, you go to the website for CDC
That's it.
and you type the yellow book. They call it the yellow book now. Before it was like this, now it's a very thick
Yes,
book.
very.
Well, let's
They
give some
give you the
suggestions
detail.
what we think people should do, Dr. Ratad, who are on their way to Brazil to the Olympics or just going to Brazil. What should they do? First you've got to go get your visa, because Brazil requires a visa. And they're going to tell you what shots or what pills you need to take. There's nothing you can take for Zika, so just the 3 or 4 things we just mentioned. The garlic. If I went down, I think I'm going to put a lot of garlic in my suitcase.
I did hear that some countries are coming up with some type of uniform for their competitors that's supposed to,
For Zika?
Yeah.
For the Zika virus?
Yeah. Had you heard that?
They come-
To repel a uniform?
Yeah,
Because they're saying wear
repel.
long sleeves in the daytime when you're there
But
to
it's-
make it more difficult for them to bite you.
But it's
and
something
pants.
they're putting in the uniform. You can probably look at. I just heard it on the news.
Because there is
a
nothing to
couple
stop
weeks
it, I don't
ago.
think, is there? Yeah.
Well, you can
Yeah.
get it on impregnated pants and things like that. You can
Yeah.
buy that. I mean, they are more expensive.
Yeah.
What kind of pants are they?
Well, I don't know what kind of material
What
it's
do you
made
call it,
out
Dr.
of.
Ratat?
I don't remember the brand.
Okay, but something you can buy to repel mosquitoes off you that you can wear.
The pants are the clothes are impregnated with something that's against the mosquito.
Right.
Oh, really?
You also have these impregnated bed nets.
The nets. That's what I had read, the
Now,
nets.
that's one of the programs initiated by the United Methodist Church.
To send
It
more to underprivileged countries, right? Those
to
nets.
send those nets.
Yeah.
And when I was in Senegal, West Africa, we were in this location, and we had to sleep with a net over our beds.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And but that's one of the programs of United Methodist Church. It's called Nothing But Nets.
It was
And,
a person on my show earlier today. He's going down to Brazil, Anthony Stewart, and they're trying to buy nets for people. He's with a
Yes.
charity that he's working with the church to do that.
And it's
so
real
at the end of the day,
simple.
again, we're going to have to start bringing this to a close. Is there anything else, Dr. Retired, you'd like to leave with the public on Zika? Would we say don't worry about it too much either? It's not going to kill you, 99.9% chance.
For Zika, you are in the driver's seat. Two things to do. Not in my house, so screens, bed nets. Not in my yard. Go around
No
and
water.
pick up. In Brazil, you probably have a hard time if you are not in a good hotel. And not on my skin.
Yes.
And that would be long clothes.
That's it.
And if it's too hot, mosquito repellent.
That DEET, they were saying, is what I read, is
Yeah,
one of
you
the
have to
better
repeat
ones.
it.
Is
That's it.
What about that Skin So Soft? And then I'm going to get off. Avon makes something called Skin So Soft that a lot of people put on, and they say it's an insect repellent now. Have you ever seen that or heard of that?
I've heard
It's like
that.
greasy. I don't know. Probably they slide off.
I've heard that, but
Some people are more susceptible to attract mosquito than others. I know my first job was malaria control for 6 years in Vanuatu. Mosquitoes don't like me.
Well, you're lucky because number one killer in the world is a mosquito. Who would think? About 10 different kinds of mosquitoes, and they're number one killer.
But the one in Africa, they do like me.
They do like you. Did you get malaria? You got that one time.
Yes,
So you got it twice or just once?
just once.
Just that one time your wife was smart enough not to go.
Yes, as usual, they know better.
now one of the other.
Okay, we're going to have to wrap it up. And hopefully this will help you. At least go to the websites, go read on what's the best thing to do for Zika if you're going to any foreign city. And again, it's already around the 10 states. I will say this, there were 10,000 fish were bought in New Jersey, and they put them in the basin, and they're mosquito-eating fish. I'd never heard of that before, but there's something called mosquito-eating fish. Louisiana and New Orleans is supposed to have one of the better programs in the country. They say the 5 Gulf states will be affected the most as we're part of that. And they expect a lot of cases, thousands, they say, of cases in America of the Zika virus. But again, hopefully, you know, we can stop it by being in control of it instead of Zika controlling you, by doing some of the things we've outlined in this show. So we'll see you next week. Come on back next week. And remember, between black and white, there are always shades of gray. So be tolerant with people. Thank you. Diane Andrews out.